Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Steel City Roundtable. I am Mark, one of your hosts, and today we have a former guest, now a co-host with me today, Miss Natalie Snyder.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me back, Mark.
Of course, if you guys don't know who Natalie is, check out episode 20. She is a criminal defense attorney here in the city of Pittsburgh, my former nemesis. And she came on the last episode, and we had such a great conversation, I had to have her back. So just if you want to, just give everybody a little, 1, 2, 3 of who you are again if they didn't see you before.
Absolutely. My name is Natalie Snyder. I am the owner and sole practitioner of the criminal defense firm, Natalie Snyder Law, primarily in life. I am a wife and a mom. I have 2 beautiful, amazing daughters. The world got 2 more of me that they didn't need. And apparently I have helped Mark get over his absolute detest of criminal defense attorneys enough to bring me back again.
I don't know if that's true,
Enough
but I
to
like
bring me
you.
back.
I like you. I like you. I like your mentality. I like your moral mindset. I like the way that you just want justice to be done in justice's sake and not all the bullshit in between. So I'm going to start off. I had so a friend of mine, whose name is Mark, had an incident this week with someone. Now, I'm not going to get too specific about it, but basically there was a disagreement with this person, and when I approached him and tried to have a discussion about it, instead of having a discussion, I was immediately being talked down to and insulted in a verbal manner, not like, hey, you motherfucker, you're a piece of shit, but just like, you did this, you did that, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. And this person was significantly younger than me, and I was the whole time sitting there like, can we just have a conversation? Like, where is this coming from? And by the time it was done, it became this big to-do where, other parties were involved, and it went way out of scale. And like I said, I'm not going to get into the actual particulars because, as everybody deserves their privacy, so does this person. But they know who they are. Yeah, and at the end of the day, it was a total lack of communication. And so it led me to start thinking, like, what is one of the base problems in our society, like the U.S.?
I think the biggest problem in our society is a complete inability for human beings to communicate. I don't mean talk. I don't mean talk at each other. I mean literal, actual communication. Not talk to be heard, but talk to
Be understood.
And have people not just hear but listen. Unfortunately, and I run into this personally and professionally like you do all the time, nobody has that. Nobody has that ability. I mean, and I look at the 2 of us sitting down a couple of weeks ago on this podcast on completely different ends of the spectrum. Complete strangers. And yet, if you have an actual ability to communicate, and communication isn't talking. That's the problem. It's not just that. It's wanting to understand where another person is, meet them where they are, and have them understand where you are. Unfortunately, the younger generation is coming up on screens and phones and thumbing everything and keyboard warriors. I remember the first time, I'm old. I remember the first time that I went into a internet chat room, and I was a lot older than kids are now on screens and on the internet. And it was kind of cool because you could say whatever the hell you wanted to. Nobody knew who you were, and there's kind of a lot of power in that. Well, I think what has caused it is nobody can say anything to another person. Everybody gets defensive. Nobody wants to hear. Nobody wants to take accountability. Nobody wants to hear how they could change and improve. They're happy to tell everybody else how they can, but there's no integrity. There's no personal responsibility. There's no internal mechanism. There's something missing that we came up with that suddenly, got eliminated from the gene pool.
Well, I mean, you look at the generational gap, right? So, I'm 50.
I'm 49.
We're the same age. We grew up in the same time frame. We grew up when Bon Jovi was cool.
Still cool.
Wham, they weren't weird. They weren't doing weird stuff in a bathroom. You know, it was a normal world where every day you woke up and you know, your parents, if they taught you right, you got up, you did your chores, you went to school, you did what you had to do at school. Then you were involved in some type of extracurricular activity where you were either playing sports, or you were in a band, or you were in a choir, or you were in a legal club, or you were in ROTC, or you were involved in something.
Other humans.
You were involved in something that had other human beings and interaction. And then, you know, that's how I grew up. Like, it was like, if you weren't doing something after school, you were doing chores. So it was like, I'm going to stay after school and do something, right?
Because I'd rather be here doing it.
And my parents were like, you know, what are you doing inside? It's 90 degrees and sunny outside. What are you doing inside? So it'd be like, hey, go pick all the rotten tomatoes out of the garden. And then me and my stepbrother would end up being a rotten tomato fight, splashing each other in the face with nasty tomatoes with worms in the middle. You know, but we were always involved in something, and I have to thank my stepfather and my mother for that, because they were like, you need to learn how to deal with people. You can't just be on your own all the time and introverted, because it's not going to serve you well in the world down the road, right? Like, you know, I was a very quiet kid. Go figure. Very shy, you know, until I hit college.
Okay.
And then, you know, fraternities and whatnot, and booze, and, you know, the world opened up to me. But growing up, it was like, my stepdad especially was like, you need to be involved. Like, you're not going to sit at home and do nothing.
See, and that's kind of interesting to me, because once again, we're going to revert a little bit to gender issues, and I promise I'm not actually a raging liberal feminist. I promise you, Mark, I'm not. But I grew up in an era of little girls should be seen and not heard, speak when spoken to. To this day, I am 49 years old, and I can tell you, my mom's a dear soul, but she is still waiting for the skinny, demure, white lacy dress, soft-spoken little girl. And so I had to be involved in stuff, but as far as any actual ability to express, I was wound in the jack in the box. And then I went to college, and
so like you and I, we both hit college and things changed. Like, so this is like a stereotypical example of the issues that we have in society. Like, you grew up as a woman who was told to be quiet, sit in a corner, mind your business. I was told to get out there and do this and do that and do that. And we both did what we were told. And then we went to college. We said, fuck this. I'm doing what I want. We're going to figure it out. And I think that speaks volumes about our generation. And like, guys, I'm not saying our generation is better than yours. It's just, you know, this generation sucks. It does. Like, you're a bunch of snowflakes, a bunch of whiners, you know, a bunch of crybabies. Like, you know, as Kelly said in an episode, people have forgotten what it feels like to get punched in the face. Verbally, not literally.
well, because, you know, we had to be mindful of what you say. You know, I still ran my mouth even though I was told to sit in a corner and be quiet. Yeah, I'm sure that's not a shock to anybody. But for us, you know, you knew the risks that you ran, but that's how we learned what to say, how to say it, learn respect, not by not saying it, but learning the right ways to say it. You know, I learned that in some unfortunate circumstance, but I know, like me with my kids, they're very mouthy. They have strong opinions. I know that's shocking, but I give them, if I tell them I don't want them to do something, I give them a reason why, not just the default that I had growing up, and you probably did too, because I said so.
Don't do it because I said so.
Because I said so.
Exactly.
I give them an explanation, because as far as I see it, I'm not saying I'm right, but as far as I see it, that teaches them how not to get punched in the face later, because I'm not going to punch them in the face. But I also know how, if it doesn't go right, and if you don't learn, those of us that are prone to pushing people's buttons just by virtue of being mouthy, you know, everybody's learned it, because there's an entire segment of society that feels very comfortable and very safe and very free to voice any and all of their opinions, but don't want to hear anybody else's.
Yes, the social media generation, as you call it, like, where you can sit there and run your mouth about someone on Facebook or Instagram or X or whatever, and then have no accountability. You know, no actual accountability. Like, would you say what you just said to that person on Facebook if they were standing right in front of you? Probably not. Because
or I would. With this generation,
well,
probably not.
If it was me standing in front of you and you're going to say something ignorant to me, we're going to have a discussion, and that discussion is probably not going to go well, because I'm not going to hold back with what I have to say, but I'm going to do it to your face.
But you're also not, my guess is that just because you're voicing your opinion and you're voicing it strongly you're not going to do it for the purpose of hurting another person
Correct.
or for the purpose of disrespecting or demeaning another person.
Well, with the incident that happened this week, apparently me just being 6'3", 220 pounds is enough for someone to feel they need to possibly involve other entities because they were scared. That's a whole nother thing we can get into later. It was, the whole, you're 6'3", you're 200 pounds, you're frightening, you're intimidating. I'm like, yeah, no, but
The
back
more
to what you're saying.
intimidating, frightening people are the people that don't know how to communicate or talk.
But back to what you're saying is like, I wasn't, I'm not trying to insult someone, hurt somebody's feelings, talk down to someone. Once again, our generation, we learned how to discuss things. Because if you don't discuss things, what happens? Normally nothing gets accomplished. You just sit at a stalemate.
And it festers.
And it becomes
in
bigger
at
and
least
bigger and
one
bigger.
of the two people. It
Yeah,
festers.
so perfect example, Democrats, Republicans, right? Like, they can't talk to each other. They can't have a sit-down conversation as a group and like actually come to an agreement on anything. It's just like, we're doing this, you're doing this, we don't like you, end of story, blah, 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 blah. And then you get all this disinformation, misinformation through the social media, and it goes back and forth, and you got this lawfare where, everybody's trying to weaponize government. I mean, this all stems from one problem. I know that it's hard to make that connection, right, to politics. But it all stems from one thing. It all stems from the me generation shit that's gone on. Going from like the we generation where it's like we want to do the best for our generation. Now it's I want to do what's best for my party or my belief system group or my little section of society. Nobody wants to do what's right or what's better for the bigger whole.
Well, I think part of what that goes back to is, from how I see it, there was a progression of losses that led us here. The loss of work ethic, the loss of integrity, the loss of accountability, the loss of willingness to sacrifice for the greater good. And all of those things combined led to a loss of action. Nobody wants to fix anything. Everybody just wants to
Bitch
yap.
about it. They just want to bitch about it.
Just wants to bitch about it and complain about it. And there's from how I see things, mostly on a personal level, there's no accountability. Nobody wants to, I don't like when somebody says to me, you hurt my feelings. It doesn't feel good. I don't like it. But I'm not going to say, no, I didn't. Because, I have this conversation with people. Your feelings and your opinions can't be wrong. They're yours. You hold them dearly. But everybody gets to a point where they don't want to close that loop because it's hard. And you might have to step outside yourself for a minute to let someone finish a sentence so that the next sentence can happen. And, I remember when I was pregnant with my oldest, my boss, law school classmate, and dear, dear friend of mine, we could not have been any more different, personally, professionally, politically, other than we were both lawyers. She was a lesbian. I was clearly not. She was very, very liberal. I was clearly not. We spent many days, many hours being able to talk about these things and our differences, and caused us to be closer. You don't see that anymore, to the point where, just to bust my balls, when my oldest was born, right after she was born, she sent a gift to my house, and it was the year that Obama had gotten elected, right before my daughter was born. She sent me an Obama onesie. And with no malicious intent.
Yeah, just funny.
It was funny as hell.
Yeah.
And I still have it. Now, we've lost touch, but that's a friendship that I treasure. I don't want to be anymore. People only want to be surrounded with clones of themselves. I think everybody's insecurities and feelings of inadequacy have turned them into wanting to be surrounded by people just like that.
That's that whole strength in numbers thing. Like, I can't function on my own because, I was pampered as a kid and I was told that I'd get a trophy if
The
I showed up.
participation trophies.
Like it's become so,
That was the worst thing we ever did.
I think one of my favorite phrases is life sucks, wear a helmet, right? Like, it just sucks. Shit happens. You deal with things. The reason why you take lumps on the chin growing up is so that you don't take them when you're an adult, right? Like, so you pick your battles. You pick you learn to, through interaction with other people, you learn what's worth fighting for, what's not worth fighting for. You learn when to fight for it and when not to fight for it,
Pick
right?
your battles.
You pick your battles based on what is going to be, if you're like me, you're thinking strategically, like, I'm not getting in this fight because I can't win. Or I'm gonna drag this out because I know if I can get to the end of my argument, I'm gonna show them where they're wrong. Or I'm just getting my ass kicked in an argument. I'm just like, oh well, I guess I'm in there now. I mean, the thing is, like, this whole situation. It could have been, this whole situation I had. It could have been solved with a conversation, with just communication. Like, hey, you did this, you did this. I don't agree with that. Okay, cool. I'm sorry. What can I do to remedy the issue and make things better? Instead it was like da 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 da, rapid fire. You're this, you're that, and that is this generation since like 20,000, like since 2000, 2005 is what I see when I see it the most. Is the 20 somethings.
I think see it the most. Yes, I think if there's any positive, what it's bringing to light is some major problems in our generation of lack of emotional maturity.
Okay.
And things that, I mean, you said it could have been solved with the discussion. Come on, Mark, how many marriages, work, jobs, friendships, family relationships could have been or could still be saved by a discussion, a legit discussion? Not, I have this happen, in life where I don't want to have a monologue. I don't want to just sit here and run down a laundry list of things that are bothering me or that I need help with or that I need,
The to-do list for your mental health and all this other stuff.
Everywhere from, being able to pick up the phone, call a colleague and be like, I know this, but can you tell me where to find this kid? And, I think there's a more significant number of people, again, back to the social media generation, that is a total lack of emotional maturity, which then makes them incapable, literally incapable of having a discussion. And now all these people are flooding workforces, and thank God, at least some places are self-checkout, but unfortunately, like the system, we come from isn't a self-checkout system. They're still stuck having to deal with people, but nobody wants to have a discussion, civil discourse, being able to, I think we all learn more from being able to have conversations, discussions, learn other people's perspectives, because if nothing else, I think it makes our position and our own beliefs stronger.
I mean, that's one of the reasons why we do this. Like, this, one of the reasons why I started this podcast was because I want to have discussions. I want to talk about the shit that other people don't want to talk about. I want to talk about the things in the closet.
Which is pretty much everything.
Yeah, but like, I wasn't always that way. Like I said, growing up, it was like, play with your friends, do this, do that. And then when I went to college, it was, figure it out on your own. Like, I don't think a lot of kids now are forced to figure it out on their own. Like they're guided through their teenage years, and then they're guided to the college they're going to go to. They're pampered when they get there. Their parents are sending them money all the time. They're paying for their apartments, they're paying for their cars. Like, I don't know about you, but I didn't have that growing up. Like, I had to work for what I got. Like, I had to work, I had to pay my own bills. I got the help I could from my parents, but it wasn't a lot. So, I like to say that our generation was the will do generation. This is the maybe will do generation. Like, we were taught to finish it out. We were taught to start to finish the task.
Well, and I think along with that is, one of the starkest differences between the two quote unquote generations is the stupid participation trophy thing, but also if you start something, finish it. You don't necessarily have to do it again. So if kid A decides, I have a kid that decides to play soccer, okay, ends up hating it. If you hated it at the tryouts and decided not to play, that's one thing.
Yeah.
But if we're at the third game and you just realized you sucked,
yeah, you're there.
I mean,
you're there.
You don't have to play again next year, but.
Yeah, I mean, I agree 100%.
Now it's like, no, I just don't like it. I'm gonna take my ball and go home.
There's a lot of, I want to do that, and then it becomes difficult, and it's like, I can do something that's easier. Like
work ethic is gone.
I mean, I work, just like, I know you work a lot because you have kids and you have a business. Like, you don't have a lot of free time. So thank you for coming out and doing this with me today.
You're welcome.
I'm the same way. Like, I don't have kids. I have 2 dogs and a girlfriend. If you check my post out last night, it's pretty cool.
It is good.
And I work 60 to 65 hours a week and I try to do this. I could have easily quit this several times with all the stuff that's gone down with like people quitting on me, people deciding they didn't want to do this anymore, people needing time off and whatever. But my family was like, you start something, you finish it. It doesn't matter if you're good or bad, if you like it, if you don't like it. You need that because it helps build your character. You become a person that doesn't shy away from difficulty.
Which I think is a lost concept. I mean, I know for me, like going through high school, I wasn't allowed to have a job, but I had to do volunteer work. Mm-hmm. So, like during the summers, I essentially full time volunteered at the Children's Institute in Squirrel Hill and loved it. Ended up working there afterwards. But I went to night law school because I worked the whole way through law school. I worked doing counseling at Wales Tail. I worked shifts. I still was working at the rehab in Squirrel Hill. So I had 2 jobs, full time law school. And everybody's like, well, how'd you do? It wasn't an option. I mean, my parents helped me a great deal to the extent that they could, but at the same time, like I chose to go to night school because, I mean, I'm in my 20s. You're a little too old to still be doing college regular. Sorry, no insult to the day babies in law school, but like, you got to figure it out. Yeah. Life doesn't go. This is the funniest thing when I remember this mentality. I hear my kids comment like, the world starts and stops August through June, and nothing happens in the summer. And great, enjoy it while you're a kid. Absolutely. But, even now, when I was at the DA's office, I worked as a receptionist at a gym. So I would leave the DA's office after humping how many cases every day, picking juries, go change into my sweatsuit, go work at the club till 10, 11 o'clock at night, get back to my apartment, go to bed, start all over. What? Well, my bills needed paid. I wasn't making crap at the DA's
So where do you
office.
think this comes from? Where do you think this lack of, as my family would say, stick-to-itiveness?
Parents like me who had no intention of doing it. My kids are spoiled, not with stuff, but my kids are spoiled.
With like emotional support and
because
having that family, that nuclear family around.
Yes, and for me, wanting to create that environment of safety for my kids because I didn't have the ability when I had weird questions or, the teenage years are happening. There was no talking to mom and dad about it. So I wanted to make sure that was available for my kids, but the translation of that is they don't have to take as many of the hard knocks. Mm. So what our choices are, at least as parents forming the future generation, but is getting it so that they have that safety, but still know how to handle and accept conflict and still know how to push through when things are hard. And that sometimes yanking the safety net physically out from under them, like getting them to understand I can still be emotionally supportive of you and I'm still going to ground your ass when your homework's not turned in.
So kind of metaphorically a jack of all trades, like you know how to handle different situations. You know how to survive in different environments, in different situations. Unlike, so yeah, you
like you say, play the game. It's all of it.
It's like a video game. Like life is like a video game now, and I mean literally, it's like a fucking
Space
video game.
Invaders.
Like I play video games. I'm 50 years old, but I didn't play video games when I was a kid. Like I played sports. I, was with my friends all the time. Like now I think this is just my way of thinking. It goes back to the initial 7 years of a kid's life. Like in the first 7 years, if your kid is hooked on a telephone, hooked on a cell phone, hooked on a tablet, hooked on an entertainment like a PlayStation you're screwed. If by 7 they're already hooked on this shit, you're screwed. Because now you've got to break that habit. Now something has gone wrong where they have turned to that as their primary focus of security.
And it's rewired their brains all funky.
So now, as they grow, once you gotta break down that habit, right? You gotta figure out there may be something that child is suffering with that is putting them in that direction. But now, that's a really good indicator that kids are having some type of mental health issue. It is if they shy away from human contact and they throw themselves into something that's fully sensually immersive. To me, that's a sign that there's something going on. Maybe good, maybe bad. You don't know. Maybe they're just a super smart kid. But if by 7 you're already addicted to these things,
it's not good.
It's not good.
No.
And I don't have kids, so anything I say about kids is basically bullshit. So don't take it seriously.
No, it's there's always good perspective on seeing the other side, people without them, and for me, I think there's a lot of things that we can look back that our parents, not just specifically our parents, but our parents
Yeah.
did right and did not wrong. And my major goal, and I've said this forever as a parent, is, just to do my best to fuck up my kids the least I can.
I love that. I love the fact that you say
and-
"fuck up my kids."
Because it, I had to read a manual to learn to drive my car. I had to read 8,000 books on God knows what to go to law school. I have to read instructions for juries. Nobody gives anybody a handbook for kids. And unless, I took the overly honest approach with my kids that I do just with life in general, and overly transparent. Don't know if it was good or bad, but like, you want to protect them from kind of the ugly hurts, So I obviously didn't want, as a mother of daughters, first and foremost that popped into my head was, oh dear God, please don't let them turn out like me, as far as yap, 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 yap. And that was, there's some.
If that's the
I
worst
have
thing,
a-
if that's the worst thing that happens, you're doing pretty damn well.
Well, thank you for that. Except you'll remember I said this, and in all honesty, one of the greatest things ever said to me by one of my best friends in the entire world was, "You're not condoning domestic violence whatsoever." The comment that was made to me was, "You're the reason men beat their wives, because I'll push buttons and I'll push buttons and I'll push buttons," and not intentionally for that outcome, but trying to, when I found out, we didn't find out the gender of either child till they came out. And someday we'll talk about the birth of my first child and the trauma with that. But the biggest thing for me, I remember saying is, I grew up with, you guys can only see me from here up, but it's enough to say I'm not a tiny, small girl. And I grew up in an era where everybody was supposed to be very, very thin, very, very skinny. I swam. And I had these obnoxiously big boobs till I got them chopped off. So, and I played sports and I played softball. And yeah, TMI. But nonetheless, I was not tiny. So, and I can't change my bone structure. So that only left so much up to me to change. Welcome to the wild and wacky world of eating disorders.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh God, we're gonna have to have you on a lot.
I have so many
You're
issues.
so
I get to
messed up.
come
You're
back.
So messed up.
But to me, I was like,
This could be
I
like
can't-
the rest of my career.
I
right here,
can't do
podcasting.
this to my kids, but I don't know how not to do. Look, clearly, my parents never set out to, please, let's make sure our child ends up with an eating disorder. Clearly not what they
Yeah.
wanted. Clearly not at all. You do the best you can at the time, and you work with what you know. But like, that was the biggest thing to me. And when my first was born, short version, we'll leave it at, she was a preemie, so we had to essentially force feed her for the longest time. And
Me too.
she was this birdie little thing, and she was tiny, and of course, she got my husband's gigantic melon, so she was essentially a bobblehead for quite a few years. But and then she got to the point where, and they said, growing up, especially with girls, as she hits puberty, her metabolism's going to be a little off. She may end up being, bigger or very skinny, or you just don't know.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh God, I don't want that, because I'm so terrified that either of my kids would ever end up, like that. But, so you want to spare them from some lumps, yes, but then you have the, the social lumps that I'm seeing more with the younger ones, like the young teenagers and adolescents that are coming up in this social media generation where, like, I can't tell you how many days that I came home from middle school and cried because somebody picked on me or called me name, or I'm a girl, we cry. You guys punch things, or each other. We cry and hold grudges for 35 years.
Guys cry too. Guys cry too.
They do, but
I was
don't.
bullied a lot growing up.
And it sucks. And, these kids are all growing up as islands stuck in a small pond with other islands. Like, there's no community around them. Everybody's looking out for their own interests.
It's a bunch of medium-sized fish trying to be the big fish. It's a bunch of people
Yeah.
all chasing each other around, trying to better each other, trying to one-up each other. There's no community.
There's nothing I hate more in life, Mark, than one-uppers and know-it-alls, because I think they're cut from the same cloth.
Yeah.
Like, people that I could start talking to. Okay, here's a prime example of, I had a friend growing up that would be this person. I have tattoos and piercings. You have tattoos. who doesn't have a single tattoo or piercing. But I would start, somebody would ask me about, another friend would ask me about, well, what does your tattoo mean? Or what made you get that? And they'll suddenly have something to add it. Like they suddenly know something about tattoos and piercings.
Yeah.
Or, you at least said, hey, I don't have kids, so what I'm saying is bullshit. It isn't bullshit, but the people that act like they have some understanding because they always got to one up somebody. They always got to be the know-it-all. They always have to know more. It does not, your grass doesn't get any greener by lighting someone else's on fire.
Yeah. I mean, it's, this all comes back to the same thing. This all comes back to the fact that we have lost our way in the idea of community and the idea of we the people and, together as one. Now it's we're together until I can take something and surpass you. Or I can step over your warm body to take your spot. For example, police departments. The one I worked for, a lot of good people work there. A lot of really good individuals, a lot of great cops, a lot of dumb ones. And, it was, everybody says thin blue line. Thin blue line. It's supposed to be what separates the good from the bad, the evil from the righteous, right? The only time this matters is when someone dies. The rest of the time, they will step over your warm body to get what they want, for the most part. I'm not saying every person. But a lot of cops will use your misfortune to pave their success.
I wholeheartedly.
Does it make sense?
Yes, I agree with it. And I got to say, obviously no disrespect to you, to my husband, or to my friends, but the thin blue line's a bunch of bullshit. Because... again, it only matters at funerals. I'll spare you the details. Joe Picordi was a dear friend of mine. And when I went to his viewing and funeral, I got bulldozed by a bunch of fucking city guys, borough guys, none of whom met the guy a day in his life.
But acted like they knew him.
And ran, pushed, a couple of us that were actually, I don't begrudge them being there, but why are you suddenly more important just because you're both you didn't know each other? I literally was on the road when my friend was shot dead.
Yeah. And
you have but come up with something better and care about these people because, the thin blue line mattered at the funeral of the cop that died by suicide, but it didn't matter when you didn't answer the phone when they called you, because there was no damn line then. And maybe if you had, they wouldn't be there. Everybody's got a war story to tell after someone's dead, and everybody's this, that, or the other, and they look at me sideways because, not to get into a long discussion, and again, no disrespect, I adore Joe, but people don't always make the best decisions. Yeah. And don't always put themselves in the best situations. And that's maddening.
Well, that is definitely a discussion we can have someday about, police tactics and
awareness. I would love to.
And I would love to talk about that.
But this is not by concept, but now it's a false community.
See, this is here because it means something to me personally.
Correct.
But, let me give you an example. When I quit the city, I think there's 850 employees.
Who still talks to you?
To be honest with you, I still talk to one guy because we're both in AA. I talk to another guy once every couple months, and that's it. And in 12 years, think of how many people I probably met half the department, at least met. And there is at least 30 people that I would constantly be in communication with, and people that I went to the academy with. As soon as I quit, I did not exist.
Happens in the DA's office too.
And that is, I'm not going to blame it, but that was definitely a contributing factor to my mental health and my drinking more, because I felt so alone after being part of this brotherhood for so long, and then for them to just throw me away like I didn't matter. And I'm not going to give the names of the guys I still talk to, but they know who they are, and I appreciate it because, you guys helped me out when I was in my worst. So thank you, both you guys. You know who you are. But, it's so sad that I dedicated 12 years of my life, and this is anybody who's in the legal system. I'm sorry. Anybody who's in the legal justice system, you are doing a thankless job where nobody is ever going to say good job or thank you or we appreciate what you're doing. You're just doing it because it's what you want to do and it's what you feel you have to do. But to leave that department after 12 years, and like literally the last day when I went to get all my shit from my office in narcotics and vice, nobody even said hello to me. Like I was walking around with a crate of shit,
Oh yeah.
and nobody looked up long enough to even notice what was going on.
And
I'm not
I've
saying they
seen it.
ignored me. I'm just saying they did not look up from what they were doing long enough to notice, like, oh, he's gone.
Well, and I've seen it happen to other officers, one in particular very close to me where, you'll be walking through the city and see people, and it's like you're not even there. I mean, I left the DA's office and I saw people not long thereafter, and it was like I wasn't standing there. I mean, I ended up a couple years later pregnant on the T with someone I had known since law school.
You wonder why people have, like, people that work in the legal system, you wonder why they have such a propensity for mental health issues. Like, number one, you're dealing with bad shit all the time. Like, even as an attorney, you're hearing bad shit. But to know that you don't even have the support of the people that you stand next to every day, and that they don't give a shit about you. And I'm not saying this is all police officers. Please don't take it as a sweeping generalization. My experience is that once you leave a police department or once you quit a job in the legal system, you are forgotten about with the trash.
Well, and that's why, like I said to you, it meant so much to me, the people that stayed in my life when I left the DA's office and did the civil thing for a while. And moreover, the ones that stayed with me when I started my defense practice, because it was a really lonely place to be. And not only am I walking away from being in an office, I mean, the camaraderie at the DA's office at the time I was there was second to none. It was amazing. Learned so, and it was a community, but that goes up in a puff of smoke, just like yours did. You walk out the door and it's like you were never there, and so to the people, to the few people that were, there for us as well, or the people that, when they come to realize that you're actually human and start to perceive like maybe you're not in a great spot right now. Hey, you all right? But I'm sure you went through the same thing. I stopped picking up the phone. I'm tired of initiating the conversation.
I stopped calling.
I'm tired of putting stuff out there, checking in on people, not because, but it gets exhausting and it becomes more hurtful when it brings to light nobody bothers.
When I started doing this, I think I put a clip and I sent it to like 2 or 3 people that I used to work with the city. And the comments I got back were, yeah, that's his new thing. He's just trying to get attention. He's doing this like every week now. Or they literally like made fun of it. And, it was kind of sad because one of the guys I went to the academy with and I'd known him and I'd worked with him for like probably 9 out of my 12 years. And I thought he was my friend. And all he did is ridicule me when I sent it to him. And the other 2 guys that I talked to, like, the one was the one I called before I went to rehab that wanted to put me in the mental hospital. And the other one was the one I called as soon as I got out because I needed help figuring out how to live outside of rehab. So they've been part of my recovery. That's probably the only reason why they're still in my life.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned about putting out there. I sent the full podcast that we did last time to just a few people that are close friends of mine, and one of my dearest friends, who's another defense attorney, who we jokingly refer to in my household as my work husband because we all have work spouses, was like, I just started listening to the first part and I'm so damn proud of you. And I just burst into tears because it just kind of, it shocked me. And then, other people had comments, some were positive, some were negative. And then there were some people that just were like, oh, and not much else. And they were people that I expected a little more feedback from. And nothing else. It's like, some of you just watch stuff and learn stuff about me that you never knew. And it wasn't small stuff.
The people that aren't going to say anything are the people that have gone through the same shit. Mm-hmm. Like, I sent this to pretty much all my friends in AA when I started this podcast, and I can pretty much guarantee you none of them watch it because it's not their thing. Like, it seems like the people that are suffering from the same thing, where they're dealing with the same thing you're dealing with, don't want to talk about it because they want to think of themselves as not being that fucked up.
Which,
like, I'm not that.
The
like,
translation.
I'm not that person, so this does not affect me. This has no bearing on my life. because
And
it's
therefore
not
can't step
me. So
outside
therefore,
myself long enough to
therefore I
support
don't have
another person.
Yeah, therefore me reaching out and supporting someone else acknowledges that I have the same problem. You know, it's just it all falls back to this twisted mentality we have that it's all about me. It's all about me.
We're back to the same.
It's all about me 24/7, except, and it's not even just generationally, it is just this country right now. It's all about me. When you see from the top down, from the highest seat in the country down, it's all about me.
And
Nobody gives a shit about us.
You see that in workplaces. You see that obviously in the government, but then you see it in workplaces.
Yeah.
And you see it in friendships. And then you start seeing it in families. And all we're going to do by that continuing is just continuing a breakdown.
I mean, I don't know about you, but I have like maybe like 4, 5 really good friends in this world that I care about, that I talk to on a steady basis, that I know are there for me all the time. And one of them is a super liberal. Like, he's super liberal. He has a red cape and a blue unitard that says SL for super liberal. So, and he's gonna be mad. He's gonna be mad at me after I put this out there. But so I texted him maybe like a week and a half ago. I was like, "Hey, do me a favor. I know we don't talk politics because I'm a conservative. I'm actually more of a libertarian than anything. I'm like, can you at least just look at the policies before you place your vote this year?" And the response was something along the lines is, "As of right now, the Republicans are taking away the rights of my daughter." And that was it. Like, we didn't have any more discussion about it because I knew if I would have pushed it and started saying, "Well, what are you talking about?" I know what he's talking about. He's talking about the rape laws, Roe v. Wade. You know, that's what he's talking about. You know, but if I push that, then we get in an argument. We cannot talk about politics because it's, once again, and I love this person to death, like one of my best friends. I love him to death, but it's just the fact that he doesn't want to hear anything other than what he believes. And it's okay. I mean, but that's how we get in this problem. That's how we further this rabbit hole of destruction in our own infrastructure, is people not willing to sit down and have a conversation and hear each other out. And then maybe you come to an agreement on a part of what you're talking about, which leads to another piece, which leads to another piece, which leads to another piece, which someday ends up in us being more like this again.
And I think that's where we all need to strive to be. And it's kind of funny because I have, similarly, one major hot button political issue for me personally. And it's one that will often cause me to be the person that shuts down, and I just can't get, so I, for a lot of reasons, avoid. And my older daughter is just not just starting, but learning more about politics. And she's 15, so that time's coming in. And she and I have had many discussions about politics and her views and how she's looking at things, that has caused me to fight through okay, this is the only issue that I care about, and work more towards, all right, let me start learning, because she's done research into things that I haven't, whether it's similarly situated or differently, it doesn't matter, but it's taken wanting to be more patient for me to be able to stop myself from just, my own hot button issues. And, I think that for a lot of us, part of what I think a lot of it comes down to, Mark, is not just the me, but people not knowing how to handle personal discomfort. And
They embrace the suck type of thing.
Kinda.
Yeah.
Because it is growth, so cliche, but growth and change and forward movement is uncomfortable. And for any of us that already struggle with anxiety, it's sure not helping that boat row any smoother. And, I think that everybody has walled themselves off from that personal discomfort. And if we're not going to learn to, take that step and be that uncomfortable, then I don't know where to go.
Well, I mean, nothing, they always say nothing worthwhile is easy, right? Like getting sober, for example, was not easy. Getting sober, just making the decision to do it, as you say, just, it's hard. It's scary. I don't know what to expect. I expect life's going to suck for a while. That's what you expect. But, you know, I think it's a really important point that you're hitting here is that, once again, anything worthwhile doing probably isn't going to be easy. It's probably going to be a road filled with potholes and, nails on the road and a bunch of difficult little things that you got to work through. I think, once again, generationally, our generation, I think, was a little bit more equipped out of the gate because we come from the steel industry. We come from the age of all U.S. manufacturing. Like what you were proud of what you did. If you worked at the steel mill and you swept the floors, you were proud of what you did because you were furthering the cause of American commerce. And as time has gone on, what's wrong with it? Is it making noise in your ear?
No, it just keeps leaving.
Keeps leaving? Is it cutting out on you?
That's fine, as long as you can still hear me.
Hold on, technical difficulties, people. Technical difficulties, people. It's bad. Yeah, we can probably. So I still hear you, so we're good.
Okay, that's
It's
fine.
just the headset's cutting out, so we'll get you a new headset next time. Hey, this shit happens.
Any road we're traveling has potholes and plastic
Potholes
cords.
and big nails and dead bodies. No, so our generation I think was better equipped because we came from like a hard-nosed, very pro-American standpoint. You know what I mean? Like it was like, go America, number one, woo! Now it's like, ooh, oh wait, no, America's not number one anymore because we give all our shit away, we run debt up, and we let other countries steal our production. Like it's.
Well, in this country generally, along with that, we don't seem to know what to do with any assets that we have, either as a country or assets as in, not to dehumanize people, but,
Yeah.
we went from kind of an example of things that I see just from the female standpoint is, we went from we want to be strong women by burning our bras to we want to be strong women by turning ourselves into men and wearing shoulder padded suits and everything to not look like women anymore. And that's how we want to be women. And now we went and did all this so that I, as a high schooler, could swim and play basketball and play softball. And now we want to, like, all of this is just totally taking away in this country from me as a woman. And I get real bent about it because I love being a woman. I love what comes with that. I love the fact that I am different than you. And I'm about to piss about 1,000 billion people off, but I'm supposed to be. And I'll be damned if I want to go. And I was a catcher. And on the softball team, my pitcher threw one of the most wicked fastballs ever. And it could be tough. And I'm sorry, but no, I don't want you on the pitching mound. She was scary enough. But everybody suddenly, because we want to suddenly be equal, we are completely, all these people that are in favor of, letting guys play women's sports are dismantling the whole thing. And they're saying that it's better for me, but they're making me as a woman non-existent.
See, I can't, I understand, like, I agree that you should not, this whole, and, we are not a show of, like, discrimination or personal attacks or any of that bullshit, but we're just speaking facts. Like, the whole thing about the gender issues now, like, that's something I don't get. Because, like, you saw that, that fucking boxer?
Yeah.
That was clearly a man, and was going to kill that girl in the ring. Like, I agree. Like, I have some issues. Like, I don't think you should, be able to identify as a woman if you're a man and you have a dick and walk into a female bathroom.
Well,
like,
and I
there's
think
certain things I don't think are acceptable.
we're taking away all individuality while trying to put everybody in one basket. I mean, I don't care if you're male, female, trans, gay, straight, black, white, purple, green, red, brown. I don't.
Same here.
Do you? My thing is, we're causing people to
You're putting other people's
doubt
safety at risk
and
too.
question everything about themselves. And then we want to turn around and say, why are people having such issues? Because, at least we felt some sense of personal identity, whatever that is. I'm not saying, it's okay to go and attack someone because you don't agree with it. Absolutely not. But let's not force, I don't want to force my beliefs on someone else.
And that's like a
And I
golden
don't
rule.
want them forced on me. And all we're doing is causing a great deal of confusion. And by, I think, where it might have been, trying to even the playing field, which I think
You've gone a little bit too far.
has gone too far, which I think was a good thing to want to do and a necessary thing to want to do.
As long as you're not infringing on someone else's rights and their safety.
I don't think that any of us have the right to infringe on somebody else's safety, whatever that is.
Unless, of course, you're the government. You can do whatever you want.
Well, apparently. Lord help us if any of us do, but again, it seems to me that whichever part of this we go after, it comes to just a loss of personal accountability. Because people, and it's bleeding upwards. It's going from younger kind of to older is, people are not comfortable in their own skin. They don't know, there's no self-acknowledgement. There's no desire to grow and be better. There's constant seeming desire to change just because you want to be different. And just because, look at the ADHD girl talking about things having to change rapidly because, that's just what we do.
Squirrel.
Right. Glitter. Glitter's kind of my thing. Sparkly, shiny things. But again, nobody's communicating. Nobody's talking. Nobody's feeling like I can say to you, hey, here's A, B, and C of what's going on in my head. Some of it might be normal. Some of it might be batshit crazy. Some of it you may not understand. And we're so quick to, I think you'd agree, the vast majority of people that you were to say, I got this going on, their response is not typically going to be, okay, tell me a little bit more about that. Like, what is it you got? It's going to be, oh, well, I've got this going on.
We defend positions,
Okay.
not ideals.
Do we even have ideals anymore?
Well, for me, the difference between a position and an ideal is a foundational belief that affects your daily life and leads you in your behaviors and how you treat other people and how you attack the world. A position is just taking someone else's idea and going, I put my stamp on it. I agree with it. I don't agree with it. Okay. The Democrats have certain positions. The Republicans have certain positions that they defend, but they really don't have any ideals because they'll sell out the guy next to them to accomplish what they're trying to accomplish. I think when you follow an ideal or a moral or a value, maybe value is a better term, right? Something you actually inherently believe in as a person to your core. For me, I believe in the American flag. I believe that you... Oh, that sucks. Alarm's going off on my phone. We gotta wait for that to stop. So we're gonna have a little bit of no video right now because my alarm's going off on my phone. So we're gonna switch to this camera. So, hey, say hi. So this is the spare camera for when everything else goes to shit. Because this is, my show, so it goes to shit. So let me move out of the way so we can see you.
No, we're good. We're good. You
But I think, a lot of people don't actually have, I use the political climate right now as an example. You see these arguments right now that are going back and forth between Democrat and Republican. And they really are asinine. The things that they're arguing about, and I'm not going to give my opinion on either side, but, paying for sex changes for people that are incarcerated out of taxpayer money. In what world did you ever see that coming? I mean,
it's like lob. What?
It's like throw it at, as they say about
one
police
upper
reports,
of how much.
Throw it at the wall and see what sticks.
Well, and it's
right?
kind of a reverse one upper of which thing can someone throw out there that's more asinine than the last.
Yes.
And looking at things and when I've got my younger child saying or just in passing conversation, we'll hear the ads and whatnot on the news and the TV and be like, but there's people that don't have food.
Yes, right now, and
And we're talking about like stupid crap, and we've got, you know, veterans killing themselves every day, people not having food, veterans coming back not being able to work, you know, moms being displaced because they left an abusive relationship, and we're worried about things that don't matter, be it that, or you know, who can have a dog where, and what
on
are
the
we
scale of what
doing?
matters and what doesn't matter, our society is geared towards what doesn't matter. It's
What doesn't matter the
what
mostest?
mattered the mostest. Yes, correct. Um, yeah, I mean, it's insane because we started this conversation, about, and it all comes back to the same damn thing. It all comes back to the same thing. It starts from one point. I think it all starts from like you said, the inability for us to talk and to sit down and hear each other and listen to each other, and then reason out what makes sense after that. We talk to people, we talk at people. We don't hear you, we listen,
We
but we
don't
don't
talk to
hear the
communicate.
message. And I think we're gonna end this here pretty quick, but I think at the end of the day, the thing we have to come back to is we have to come back to the days where you think of, like, I'm not going to say union because then you think of Al Capone and all those guys, but the way that people resolve issues historically is to sit down at a table and talk it out. And until this country as a whole and in its parts gets back to the ability to have conversations and listen and hear and, actually pay attention to each other, I think we are headed in a very, very, very self-destructive direction.
I wholeheartedly agree, and along with that, until we can get back literally to the table and discuss things and talk about things, that can't happen until personal accountability and integrity make a comeback. And that's one of the things I believe in a system of humanity where someone's word in a handshake should still be sufficient.
I agree.
And I still operate that way, but unfortunately, no integrity, no personal accountability. It's meaningless for most people. When to some of us, it's huge.
Sidebar. You know why I do what I do now? You know why I drive a truck now? Because there's a joke that the reason why truck drivers drive trucks is because we don't play well with others. I drive a truck and I work by myself pretty much 99% of the time because I don't have to deal with dumb shit. I don't have to listen to someone who makes no sense. I don't have to listen to someone who is going to talk down to me. I don't have to listen to someone who's going to argue with me about everything just for the sake of arguing, but not actually having a point. It's this. The last 20 years of my life has led me in a direction where, and this is not good, I would rather spend more time by myself than talking to other people. And this goes against everything we're talking about right now. But like, I have to force myself to have conversations.
But you will force yourself to have conversations. But to go with that, I mean, look at me. I'm a solo practitioner. I sit in an office by myself. I'm the receptionist, I'm the janitor, and because it's easier for me.
Yeah.
Because to me, I'm tired of talking to people that aren't actually listening on any level, and maybe that's why. Give me 12 lumps in a box, because they don't have a choice but to listen to me.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why I picked to do what I do for a living, is somebody has to listen, because there are so many times, I think, for all of us, that our words fall on deaf ears. But the biggest thing is I would rather be literally alone, i.e. by myself and the only person, than be alone in a room full of people, because nothing feels worse.
It makes sense.
Being alone is one thing, being lonely is much different.
Yeah, I mean, it's, and this, we're kind of branching off a little bit here, but, I was the same way in my addiction. Like, I could have 50 people around me and I was so alone. Like, I didn't feel like anybody else was around me. Granted, it's saying something now that I can be on my own and be okay, right? Like, I'm okay with it now, right? I actually enjoy it sometimes. Don't tell my girlfriend, she'll get mad. And she is a Latina, so. Spicy. But, I'm perfectly comfortable being on my own now, but that's the thing, is like, so I'm not going to say I'm healthy in the way I do it, but like you said, I know that life sucks if you spend it all by yourself. Like, you've got to give something back to other people.
But you can be by yourself.
But I can be by myself. But now I can be not by myself with someone I care about. And I'm not by myself talking to you, right? Like, we're engaging, we're being intellectual. Nobody ever says that about me, but we're sitting here having a conversation, and like, luckily we both kind of agree on what we're talking about today. But I'm sure there's going to be times, if you keep coming back, there's going to be times where we completely disagree. But the difference is that we are able to sit down and talk, and once again, like, I'm just bringing this thing back to where we started. I think it's a generational thing. I think that's where we have to fix it, is we have to start young. We have to start teaching the kids again to, hey, listen, you got a problem with somebody, go talk to them. If someone throws something at you, or go get a teacher and have a conversation. Like, don't just introvert and avoid the problem. Because the longer we avoid the conversation, we avoid the difficult part of it, which is, when you're 6 years old, it's really hard to sit there and go, oh, this person did this, and I'm scared to talk to them.
You don't be a tattletale.
You don't want to be the rat. Mm-hmm. But you got to do it sometimes. Mm-hmm. You got to talk about it. And, I'm going to stop talking.
By not talking.
I'm going to stop talking. Everybody knows how I feel. Do you have any final words for everybody? And look over here, because this is the camera we're using right now.
Find somebody, to anybody listening to this, find one person this week. Start a conversation.
Good or bad, indifferent.
Doesn't matter. Start a conversation. Be the person that reaches out. Just say, how are you? And really want the answer. Because even in a text message where you can't hear tone, you can. And the person will know if you're just blowing bullshit up their ass or if you actually care. Or take it the other way. If you're me, be like, hey, how's your head doing? Or are you surviving parenthood? Or, hey, you good? You're not good. Or, I've done this with, I think we all have, sometimes I know something very powerful that someone did for me was sent me a message that said, are you not okay?
So basically promote a positive human condition.
I'm not even going to go that far. How about promote any human contact and actual interaction?
So I think what she's saying is get your heads out of your video games. Get your heads out of your phones and Instagram and TikTok and Textagram or Telegraph or
Maybe
whatever
I'll
the hell you're on.
Make a phone call instead of sending a text myself this week.
So let's do this. I want to hear what people have to say about this. So, if you're watching this, please leave comments. Here's the challenge, reach out to 5 friends this week and just see how they're doing. And let me know how that makes you feel.
I don't know if I have 5 friends, Mark.
1.
I can dig up 5.
You can dig up 5. Well, if you're like us, let's make it 3. But reach out to 3 friends and just let them know that you care about them, that you're thinking about them, have a conversation. And, let us know how it goes. Let us know if it makes you feel any different. What do you think when you do it, I only have 3 friends, so.
So, hey, last time there was some apparently regular discussion.
Oh, yeah.
So can I fill in for that part?
Yes, you can. You can fill in for Kelly with your earrings. Please show us your earrings.
Well, I'm not showing you my earrings, but I will tell you about something I got. I bought myself Care Bear pajama pants. There's something to talk about.
I got nothing.
Goals.
I mean, my girlfriend's in the other room with the dogs right now. And she bought us matching Christmas pajamas.
Fantastic.
And then, because I'm so excited about that, I sent her a picture that I found on Instagram. It was a sweatshirt for 2 people. It literally was like 5 feet wide.
I need that for my kids when they're fighting. It
had like one arm on each side and a big neck. And it was just literally a onesie sweatshirt.
So it looks like a couple of the Meathead City guys? With the
and I just basically was like, don't you even fucking think about it. But, all right, folks. Well, listen. Thank you, Natalie, for coming. I appreciate it. You guys know how to get a hold of us. We will have a website coming out soon once I get enough money to do it. But you know how to reach out to us, SteelCityRoundTable@gmail.com. All our socials will be at the end, and you will see Miss Snyder again.
Dun, dun, dun.
I hope. So
you can't get rid of me that easily.
Say goodbye to everybody.
Goodbye, everybody.
Peace out. Remember, we love you guys. There's always a seat here at the round table for you, so reach out to us, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye.